It's been a week where you were not your best self with them. Not one bad moment you can circle back to and address. A whole stretch. Sharper than you meant to be. More absent than you wanted to be. Quicker to the edge than you know is fair. And now there's a quality to the air between you that wasn't there before. Nothing dramatic. Nothing you could point to if someone asked. Just slightly cooler, slightly more careful. And you're not sure if they feel it too, or if you're the only one counting. What this video is about is not how to apologize for one bad moment. It's about what reconnection actually looks like when the distance has been building across a week, and why the tools that work after a single rupture don't always land the same way after a hard stretch. There's a reason for that. And once you understand it, the 5 things covered here will make a different kind of sense. Most repair content is built around a single incident: the explosion, the raised voice, the moment you said something you immediately wished back. And for a single incident, that repair model works. You come back, you name what happened, you say what you mean, and the relationship absorbs it. But a week of hard moments is a different condition. It's not that the damage is necessarily greater. It's that what the child's nervous system has registered is different. One rupture registers as an event. A series of ruptures across several days registers as a pattern. And when a pattern registers, the child's nervous system does what all nervous systems do with repeated signals. It begins to anticipate, not consciously, not in a way a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old could name, but the body keeps a running account. And after enough signals in the same direction, it starts to brace slightly before the parent even enters the room. Here's the thing that almost no one says out loud about this. The fact that you're watching this video, that something in you named the distance and decided to do something about it. That is not a small thing. That instinct is the relationship working exactly as it should. The parent who stops caring does not feel the cooler air. They don't notice the slightly more careful quality of their child's interactions. You noticed. That matters more than the week does. But noticing isn't enough on its own. What a hard week asks for is a specific kind of repair, and it starts somewhere different than most parents expect. The most natural instinct after a hard week is to reach for the conversation. To sit down with your child, acknowledge that things have been hard, say you're sorry, and try to clear the air with words. And that instinct is right. Eventually, the explicit naming matters. It will appear in this list. But here's what research on rupture and repair consistently shows. The conversation lands differently depending on what has happened in the child's nervous system before the words arrive. Child psychologist Ed Tronick, who has spent decades studying how parent-child relationships repair after disconnection, found that what allows a child to receive repair is not the content of the words. It's the restoration of felt safety that precedes them. After a single rupture, that safety can be restored in the conversation itself. After a week of accumulated distance, the child's system needs something smaller and more repeated first. Signals that say you are safe with me before the explicit words about what happened can land at all. This is why the conversation-first approach sometimes falls flat after a hard week. Not because the words were wrong, not because the child is being difficult or withholding, because the nervous system has a sequence, and you cannot skip it. What that means practically is this. The repair after a hard week is not one moment. It's a sequence of signals, each one doing a different job, that progressively restore the relational temperature until the child's system is open enough to receive what you actually want to say. That's what these 5 ways are, not 5 options to choose from. A sequence to move through. The first signal is physical. Not a hug if the child isn't ready for a hug. Not an embrace that asks them to perform warmth they may not yet feel. Something smaller. A hand on the shoulder that asks nothing in return. Sitting close on the couch. Being in the same physical space with no agenda attached. The nervous system registers safety through the body before it registers it through language. Proximity that makes no demands is the first message. I am not a threat right now. I am just here. For younger children, this can look like lying on the floor while they play, not joining, just being present. For older children, it can look like sitting in the same room while they do something else entirely. It costs almost nothing, and it is the first door. The second signal is play. Not structured, not educational, not with an outcome in mind. Something low stakes and a little bit silly. Something that makes space for laughter, which is, neurobiologically, one of the fastest signals the nervous system has that a relationship is safe. a ridiculous voice, a game they always win, something that doesn't require them to be good at it or behave in any particular way. Play is the nervous system's shortcut. It says, we are okay together. The air between us can be light again. It doesn't require anyone to talk about what happened. It just restores the felt experience of being on the same side. The third signal is acknowledgement, without explanation. Not an apology that turns into a conversation. Not a full accounting of the week. One sentence. Direct. Undefended. Something like, this week was hard, and I know I was harder to be around than I want to be. That's it. No follow-up required from the child. No request for forgiveness. No expectation of response. What that sentence does is confirm that the child did not invent the distance they felt, that their read on the week was accurate, and that they are not responsible for interpreting it or managing it. Children who are not given acknowledgement are left to make their own meaning of what they felt. And the meaning a child makes without information is almost always about themselves. The acknowledgement closes that window. It says, you felt something real. I know it. It was not about you. The fourth signal is a shared, low-stakes experience. Something you do together that has no emotional charge attached. A walk, a meal, a show they've been wanting to watch, a mundane errand they come along for. Not an activity designed to repair. Just life, shared again. After acknowledgement, the nervous system needs evidence over time. Not one moment, but a couple of ordinary moments that say, the week is behind us. This is what we are like together, when things are normal. That evidence is what prepares the ground for the fifth signal. The fifth signal is the explicit naming. This is the conversation, the fuller version of what the acknowledgement began. But notice where it falls in the sequence. Last, not first. By the time this conversation happens, after the physical proximity, the play, the acknowledgement, the shared ordinary moments, the child's nervous system has already registered, I am safe. We are okay. The relationship survived the hard week. That is the ground the explicit naming lands on. And on that ground, it lands completely differently than it would have on day one of the hard week, when the body was still braced and the air was still cool. The conversation does not do the healing. It names the healing that has already happened. That is the reframe this whole video has been building toward. The words matter. They always matter. But they work best when the 5 signals that precede them have already done their job. If what's here opens something you want to go deeper on, specifically the language for each of these signals calibrated to where your child actually is developmentally, there's a resource in the description built exactly for that. It's called the Repair Blueprint, and it goes further than this video can. Exact scripts for the acknowledgement conversation at different ages, what to do when the child doesn't respond the way you hoped, and how to move through the sequence when you're working with a child who has been carrying the distance longer than a week. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. There's an objection worth naming before this video closes, because it's the one that is most likely sitting somewhere in the back of your mind right now. What if you try this and your child doesn't respond the way you're hoping? What if the proximity doesn't soften anything? What if the play feels forced? What if the acknowledgement is met with a shrug, or silence, or something that registers as rejection? Here is what that does not mean. It does not mean the week did more damage than repair can reach. It does not mean the sequence isn't working. What it means is that the child's nervous system is doing exactly what a nervous system does when it has been in a slightly more guarded place. It moves slowly back towards safety, and it does not move on your timeline. The parent's job in the sequence is not to produce a specific response from the child. It is to keep sending the signals regardless of the immediate response, because the signals accumulate the same way the distance did. Distance built across a week. Safety rebuilds across days. The measure of whether this is working is not how the child responds to signal 1 or signal 2. It is whether, by the end of the sequence, the air between you is different than it was at the beginning. And in almost every case, when the signals are genuine rather than performed, when the parent is not asking the child to do any emotional labor in return, it is. Because children are, as the research on attachment consistently shows, oriented toward connection with the parent who is still showing up, not perfectly, not without struggle, but showing up. The parent who had a hard week and then moved through a repair sequence is not teaching their child that the relationship is fragile. They are teaching their child that the relationship is the kind of thing that moves through hard stretches and comes out the other side. That is one of the most durable things a child can learn, and it is only learnable from a parent who does exactly what you are doing right now. For anyone who wants the age-specific language and exact scripts that go with this framework, the repair blueprint is in the description and the pinned comment. It picks up exactly where this video leaves off. What did it feel like the first time you tried to reconnect after a hard stretch? And what signal, out of everything you tried, was the one that actually moved something? What I want to leave you with is this. The week you just had is not the verdict on the relationship. It is not permanent. It is not who you are. And it is not, despite what the fear says at 9 p.m. when the house is quiet, evidence that you are becoming something your child will need to recover from. It is evidence that you are a person under real pressure, trying to do something genuinely hard, inside conditions that are not always forgiving. And the fact that the distance bothered you, that you noticed it, named it to yourself, and went looking for a way back, that is the most important data point in this entire situation, not the moments you got wrong. This one. The repair doesn't begin with the first signal you send your child. It begins with the decision that the week doesn't get to be the whole story. You made that decision. That is not nothing. Go send the first signal, the physical one, the one that asks nothing in return. Sit near them. Be in the room. Let your presence say what the words don't need to say yet. The conversation will come when the ground is ready for it, and the ground gets ready one signal at a time. You stayed through this whole video, which means you are still looking. The parent who is still looking, even at this hour, even after a week like this one, is already the parent. They are afraid they are not. You stayed. That is, in fact, the thing.